Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode of RLG Cast Reviews. Today we're talking about Captain America: Brave New World. It should have been called New World Order.
Yeah, right.
I'm here with Putty the Puttyman, and he's fresh from Vegas with all his stuff you can see in the background. Zero of it is Captain America, but
Which is
we'll take it.
well, we got Marvel. We got Marvel, so
We've got a
we'll
couple
stick with that.
Marvels.
Yeah,
We got a couple
yeah,
Marvels.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
tell them what this movie's about,
This movie, which actually,
if you can.
yeah, well, yeah. So I'm gonna say this. This movie I feel is a continuation to Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the original Incredible Hulk movie. But basically, it's the new Captain America under the guidance, or not the guidance, but under the control of the president, which is now played by a new actor, Harrison Ford, because the old actor passed away. And now it's the whole idea of him controlling Cap as well as a manipulative background character that is trying to take control of Thunderbolt Ross, aka Harrison Ford, and pretty much we just see Cap being the new Cap and trying to figure out exactly what his role, I guess, and as the new Avenger, I guess you can say in that situation. Um, and that's pretty much what I could say as far as not spoilers. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Yeah, so we'll give you a little bit of spoiler free. I mean, at this point, it's been out for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
But a little bit of spoiler free, and then we'll just talk about it. So, in spoiler free, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are saying, but it's
I
also
exact.
not good.
I was.
It's
I guess.
go if you have
But
something to say, spit it out.
yeah, well, here's the thing. I agree with you. When I saw this, it felt more like a ending to 2 to 3 things happening all at once. More in my eyes, Falcon and Winter Soldier, maybe. But the hate that it's getting, I understand that it not being good, but like putting it as low as something like Quantum Mania, or saying it's as bad as that, I feel is not really good. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, it's not horrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, I would
So
say it's like a nipple hair better than Quantumania. Like it's not that far off. Like Quantumania, at least it had an idea of what it was trying to do. It just wasn't done well. This movie is like seven movies smashed into one movie.
mhm.
And it's constantly trying to tie up loose ends from other movies that were like all the stuff that we talk about when we do our podcasts, and we're like, oh well, they never addressed this, they never addressed this. They tried to address everything in this movie, even though most of it has nothing to do with Captain America.
Mhm.
And that's my weirdest part. It's barely a Captain America movie, and one of my biggest takeaways from it is that it has very little star power. Like, you say what you will about
Mhm.
Harrison Ford, he's not but selling tickets.
Mhm.
And Anthony Mackie's not a lead guy.
Nope.
So it's a little bit weird here that they have that. I mean, Anthony Mackie's fine. I thought Giancarlo Esposito was fine.
Mhm.
Um,
But I also thought he was really underused because he's such a great actor, and in the scenes he's in, it is good. But it's like after seeing him and stuff like Breaking Bad, even in The Mandalorian, it feels like this is a watered down version of his acting.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. It's just like that's what it was. Carl Lumley, who played what's the original captain or whatever he is, the Black Captain America. I forget what
Uh
his name is.
oh, I forgot
Yeah, I
his
don't
name
know.
too.
My
Yeah,
brain's like
yeah,
off. He's good. I
yeah.
thought Danny Ramirez was good, who plays the new Falcon.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Um,
I agree.
and then like Harrison Ford was awful, like awful throughout this entire movie. And the girl Shira Haas, who plays his security
The
lady,
Black Widow. Yeah,
was
yeah.
super unconvincing in that role. Like like you don't notice it. Like first of all, she wasn't a good actress, to be honest with you,
Mm,
at least in this movie. But there's a scene where you see her do something. She helps them do something, and they're walking through a field. Falcon, Captain America, and her. And
mm-hmm.
she's so tiny. Like she looks like she's 4 feet tall and weighs 90 pounds. And it was like it was really hard. It took me out of the movie because in what world, even
Yeah.
if you're super powered, am I supposed to believe that that's a superhero? And I'm not like shaming her for being small, but it's just like it takes you out of it because it's like not only is she not good, but she looks like way out of place for what this movie is.
For some reason, it feels like that she was there as a placeholder to make someone like Anthony Mackie look tall as hell. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
mean, Anthony
that, but
Mackie's
I
very
feel like
tall,
you could
but
have did something. You could have did something different with that. And like the general acting in this movie outside of what we just talked about is very stiff and wooden. Like nobody's like
Mhm.
really like has a lot of charisma or anything. There's very little like carry in this movie in terms of acting, and that really holds it back. Not to mention the CGI in some of the scenes, especially when people are standing, just like standing around, it looks like they got a cartoonist to come in and draw the background. Like
Well,
there's a scene at the end where there's like a field of trees, those like cherry blossoms,
hmm
and it
hmm
literally
I
looks
mean,
so fake that it's hard for me to even pay attention to what's happening.
here's where I see that this is happening is because of the all this movie was supposed to come around the same time that Quantum Mania that was supposed to all lead into what they were planning on doing with what's his name for Kane Kang and the thing is you could see things thrown together to you know fix on steps and everything, and I know this is in the trailer so I can say this, the adamantium thing. I mean, this is a big plot device that's in the comic books in general. You know what I mean? And it feels so thrown in because they're like, oh, we got to make sure that we get the lore right from the comic book. So let's make sure we do this and do that. And then it's like, but then there's no gravitas to why they're getting it,
Yeah,
and there's
and
no reason for it.
they gloss over a lot of it. So like a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
story beats, they lead you to a point where you're like, okay, this is what the movie's about, and then it's not about that, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so it's got to be about this, and it's not, and there it didn't really feel truly like there's a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Because the villain's motivations are just for the guy to do what he's supposed to do. And it's like, well, then he's not even really the villain. That the other guy's the villain. And
Well,
like it plays a lot to the idea of why people don't generally in the world like the USA. Because you had Japan and USA fighting over adamantium that's in the Indian
mm-hmm.
Ocean that neither one of those countries are close to. So
Mm-hmm.
two first world countries are fighting over a resource in a place that's not even theirs, right? Like it
And
should have been more like they should have been like India or something. Like why would it be Japan?
and
I
then,
just
and the other
you know
thing
why
too
it's
is not.
Japan, right? Because they have to lead to some sort of Wolverine thing at some point.
Yeah, yeah, but that's the problem though. Even though they're trying to lead into the Wolverine thing, the problem with it is that they're already they already put this up in a foothold that we already know based on out their sources. So I'm bringing in things that are haven't happened yet that they're trying to do a reset. You know what I mean? So why are we being forced to tell this story that's never going to happen in the first place? Because the whole idea of adamantium all leads into Logan, aka Wolverine. The problem is this movie feels like it's like, oh, we want to make sure that we're fixing everything, but and it gets you excited to come see this, but then they're acting like we're stupid again, and it's like I understand right now. I know I'm pretty sure that Kevin Feige at this point is like, we didn't do so well, so let's try to pick some loose ends in this movie and move on. Because here's my fear now. Because Thunderbolts was around that same time that this movie was being made, I feel like Thunderbolts is going to be as bad. And the only thing we're going to get good this year is the Fantastic Four because basically,
I
if I
think
get to this
that
point,
they a lot of weight is resting on those two movies.
yeah, but I don't think Thunderbolts
Thunderbolts
is though.
only needs to be a Suicide Squad esque movie where it's just a
I
fun
agree.
action movie that tells a story that doesn't matter to the greater universe. It's just a small situation that they're involved in. If they go too big on this to be course correct, this is where it's going to screw up because this is not the group of people you use in this situation.
Hmm
It's like look at how Hawkeye was the show, right? And like that was the beginning point of the where MCU started slipping because that show was good, but it was nothing special. But I think that was like the starting point of like WandaVision came out and then Loki, blah, blah, and then you got Hawkeye, and you're like, oh, it's kind of like teetering now.
hmm
Um, but they took it and they did a small story. Like it wasn't world ending. And that's what this I think they need to do there. And what you said before about Captain America coming out when around when Quantumania was supposed to come out would have made a lot more sense because the story they're
Hmm.
telling helps course correct in the same way that Quantumania was trying to do. The problem is you left such a huge gap between them now that nobody even
Hmm.
remembers that that's what it's trying to do. And a
Yep.
lot of
Yep.
the loose ends that they tie up in this movie, or try to at least, are from stuff that if unless you've watched every Marvel movie or and every show, you're not even gonna know what's happening in this movie. You will not
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
first time I will point at a Marvel movie and say, if you're if you have not watched every single Marvel movie, you will not understand anything that's happening in this movie.
And I'll tell everyone what he's bringing up is there's several things you have to watch. You have to watch Eternals. You have to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You have to watch an Incredible Hulk. And again, keep in mind this Incredible Hulk is like one of the
Yeah.
first MCU movies that came out. You know what I
And then
mean?
you'd have
Like,
to watch any other following movie that has General Ross in it, like Civil War. You have to know
hmm
Civil War stuff. You have to have seen all the Avengers movies. You have to know basic X-Men lore going into
hmm
this and mutant knowledge. So it's kind of like it's too much for the average
hmm
person to just jump in, right? And then like if you can count even how long ago Falcon and Winter Soldier is, most people don't even know that Danny Ramirez is playing the new Falcon. You're just like, who's
hmm
that guy? He's just
Well,
here.
Well, that's the reason why I said to you that I see why people are giving this a hard time because a lot of the people probably didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And for me, I
And
we
like
had
we
said
talked
earlier,
about, though, most people don't like Falcon and the Winter Soldier
yeah,
for
exactly.
some reason,
And
and I don't understand that one because it's
and
pretty
see,
good.
And see, I think that's the reason why I'm trying not to give this movie so much slack because it does the parts of the movie I do like are parts of what are Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You get what I'm saying? Like all the
Yeah, the
good
part
parts in
where
this
it's like a
movie.
crime, not a crime thriller, where it's like an action thriller, work spy thriller-ish, those work. It's like every time they try to shoehorn something extra in, and then there's a lot of Harrison Ford in this movie. I was gonna say Bruce
Mhm.
Willis. There's a lot of Harrison Ford in this movie, and he's not good in it. He's
Mm,
very disappointing in this role. And
mm,
like say what you want. I never really thought Harrison Ford was an amazing actor to begin with. He just was always a big name, but he was a lot better. And if you look at his current track record, he's either just jumping on big tentpole movies from big companies to get a paycheck, or he's reliving his old franchises, right? So
mhm,
he did the dog movie for Disney, he did this movie for Disney, he did Star Wars, he did Indiana Jones again. So it's like
mhm.
he's not taking anything where he looks like he's even trying to act.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, well, I want to give this a score, but before we do that, it's the sound effects and like musical score I thought were really good. The
Yeah.
action sequences are very well done. Like all of the action is very good. The problem is there's just like quite a few gaps in time between those action sequences where it kind of takes you out. It's a little bit long. It's generally entertaining. Regardless of how not good it is, it's still kind of entertaining all the way through. If
Mm,
you're a big Marvel fan, I would say it's worth watching, but I don't know if I would like recommend this to anybody. I gave it a
mm.
6.1 out of 10.
Oh well, okay. We're dropping numbers. So I was gonna say either 6 or 7. I hadn't decided on that yet either. I kind of was hoping for your score. I'm gonna be nice and say 7. The only reason I say 7 is because the Falcon and Winter Soldier aspect does give it that charm. But it's just I mean, again, I'm actually being really nice about it because I'm glad that I waited to see this. I'm glad they didn't make a spectacle out of it because and me and you had plans to even go see it, and now I'm kind of glad we didn't. You know what I mean? I'm
I
glad
feel
we
like that
didn't
would
take
have
the
wasted a whole night in Vegas if we went to go see
yeah,
that.
yeah, and it's kind of upsetting because this movie I feel like if it was done at the right time, it would have been good. And then if they took some things out, like I'll be honest with you, the Red Hulk situation, which is in the trailer, so that's no spoilers. The Red Hulk situation, we didn't really need it. We honestly did not need that part because, and hear me out. The fight scene
Okay,
with
hold on, wait. We gave scores, so we'll just go into spoilers now. So if anybody just
okay,
wants to leave, you can leave now. But go ahead.
okay. So then that works out what I was going to say next. So the Red Hulk situation is shoehorned in so badly because it feels like they're trying to tell you, hey, guess what? We can use this stuff, but we can't use the Hulk. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put Red Hulk instead of regular Hulk. and this is gonna how we're gonna get the leader in there. You know what I mean? So for those that don't know, I can't remember the name of the actor, but the original guy that ended up I can't remember the name of the character either, but I just remember his name is the leader. He ends up his brain gets all deformed from the original Incredible Hulk movie, and he becomes the villain in this movie. First and foremost, as a comic book fan, or not comic book, a Marvel fan, I knew this was happening. As soon as I heard him, they were trying to hide him and make him secret. I was like, okay, this is him. They're bringing it back. It was clear as day because once you start talking about focusing on Thunderbolt Ross and Betty, you had to bring in other things. And I really didn't think Bruce was going to come in. And when I knew Red Hulk was going to come in, I said the only other thing I could see coming in is the leader. And so it wasn't much of a surprise for me. But then he came in and he wasn't what I was looking for. He looked like back in the day when Fox was afraid to push the envelope when it came to characters. So they were trying to like tone things down. This is exactly what they did with him. He looks really bizarre and weird, and he's supposed to look bizarre and weird. But if you're gonna go bizarre and weird, go overboard. Give him that big cranium and give us something to be like, oh, they went crazy weird. Instead, he just
I
looks
thought it
weird
was
and
that really threw me off when I saw him because
yeah,
it's like, yeah, they changed the way he looked from what they were teasing in the Incredible Hulk, but it also just looked really weird. But I understand like the long head would have been also like weird looking, but still it's like it was so off from what the character is in the
mm-hmm,
comics that it was jarring, I guess.
mm-hmm.
It was a bit
And it,
grotesque, like for a movie
yeah,
that you're expecting like families to watch, I guess, to an extent.
well, Well, that's my whole thing. It's because I feel like what happened in this and why they changed that was because with like in Quantum Mania, they Modoc really looked surreal and everything. You know what I mean? So I feel like what they're doing is they're like Marvel has this way. Like back in the day, they would be like, we're gonna go full force and make him look like the comic book character because we want the fans to be happy, and it worked. Now you're holding back, and it's like, why are you holding back? Are you scared? Like, why are you
It
holding back
feels
so
like
much?
they're trying to take a page out of DC's book and trying to ground things more, where it's like make it feel more realistic because Marvel's never done that like realistic tone really, except in the Captain America movies, which is
Yeah,
surprising. Um, but this feels very DC, where it's like we'll just change the way the guy looks and then everyone will complain
yeah,
about it later. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I don't know. I found it very odd. I don't. I think it was a weird choice. He's also not really a villain. He's
Mm.
if you look think of the way that they describe things, right? He's been held captive by an evil General Ross who's been experimenting on him and using him to do evil things behind the
Hmm.
scenes. And all he's trying to do is make sorry, I keep wanting to say William Hurt or whatever his name is, the actor. He's
The
trying
leader,
to
I call him
make
the
General Ross like show his true colors of what he really is, which is the Red
right,
Hulk. He's evil, right?
right.
And so technically what he's doing is good. He's trying to save the American like country by showing them that their president is actually evil.
Hmm.
And he's the one getting punished for it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a weird. You're the thing is, and this is going back to the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the way they put like when we watched that show, we talked about it in the past. The way they did that show was, yeah, it was grounded, but they really made the new Captain America feel like the old one. He was for like truth and justice, like a Superman type character. But then in this one, he's more like I'm conflicted. You know what I mean? He's
It's
conflicted
too
with
the modern version with him, okay, I like that he's conflicted, but it's too political in the sense where
mm,
like he's always trying to justifiably choose a side where Cap would have blindly just been like USA, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Cap was more of a guy, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then he's not that he couldn't be a leader, but he was like an agent, like US agent, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna do the bidding of what I'm told to do, where Falcon has too much of Captain America always did the right thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Not that Falcon doesn't, but Falcon has too much judgment on what he thinks he should do rather than just doing something and then
exactly.
figuring it out as he goes. And it causes him to make the wrong choice so many times before he figures out what the right choice is. And I
And
found that really strange. because he
Well,
doesn't do that in Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier. They don't
exactly.
have that issue.
And see, you nailed it there because there's a scene where Bucky, where they finally show Bucky and everything, and they're having the conversation, and even the new Falcon, I can't remember his name. They both keep reminding him of how he's a good person, and it's like we don't need to be reminded of this. We know what Captain America stands for.
Yeah, and
That
we know that since day one, since he was introduced, like I don't what's the why is my brain not working? What's Falcon's real name?
oh, it's Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson is like the peak ideal of what a great person is.
Hmm.
But they have to, it's like the constant reminding us of it is like, I don't get it. We already know that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
His
you
morals have
could.
been set since the very beginning that he's going to do the right thing.
This movie, what it does is it's trying to make sure that it tells you each thing that, in case you didn't see the movies that are there. But the problem is for those that haven't seen those movies, you're making them more confused when you constantly jarringly try to add information to them. And then for someone like me that knows the information, you're making it slow down by constantly reminding me, oh, this exists here because of this. And it's like, I don't care. That's
Yeah.
making the movie slow down. Its pacing is weird. And then so what happens is now you have a movie that literally feels like it's small segments of the other movies that you just put together to make one movie. And it's so jarring and weird that when I watch it, I want certain things to be thrown out. That's why I keep saying the Red Hulk, because I feel
Yeah.
like if you took out the Red Hulk situation and the adamantium situation and just made it the leader trying to control the president,
And
you would have had a great
then
story.
Serpent is
Huh.
constantly talked about but never explained to anyone. So if you don't know anything here, you're like, why where's Hydra? Where's AIM? Like what's happening right
Yeah.
now? Right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. It's constantly wanting to tell you exposition or story elements that are in other movies,
But then
and
doesn't
then it's
explain to you the things that matter in this movie.
yeah, exactly. And so then you're like, what am I doing here? And again, if this movie feels like we're at a final exam, you're stressed out. The exam is confusing, but of course you had to study everything else to even be able to pass this exam. And if you jumped in this exam and just studied one night, you're going to be totally confused and fail. And this just makes it just like the horrible worst exam you could ever get from a
And
teacher.
it's in a way too that touching on exactly what you're saying because that's right. It's like if you took that exam I needed to know all these things, but they were like, we're not even going to tell you what you need to study. You're just going to show up, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, there's going to be math questions on your science test, and you're going to be like, okay, well, what? I don't understand.
Yeah, I
Um,
learned math, but I wasn't preparing for it. You know
and
what
I
I
think
mean?
there's a lot of that, and I think it hurt this movie a lot. There was points where I was like, okay, they're like it starts off pretty well, and you're like, okay, I like where this is going, and then
Hmm.
around the time when they do um the assassination attempt,
Hmm.
that it just starts falling apart slowly. Like,
Yeah, because right there, then you're also introducing elements of like Falcon and the Winter Soldier because of the whole, you know, what do you call it? The mind takeover. I can't think of the word right now. But and that's the thing that I like it because yeah, that was elements that they talked about even kind of in Falcon and Winter Soldier about the controlling aspect. But again, you're now making it a situation where I feel like I'm being shown something that I'm already seen before. So you're saying, look, hey, look, we're doing this again, but it's in this movie now. And by the way, if you haven't seen this movie, well, this is a cool thing that happened back in this other one, but we're now showing it to you now because you're going to be surprised. There's no element of surprise in this movie. There's no
well,
element of
I have an element of surprise for you,
what's that?
and this you can go with it. I did not like when it was over. I was just like, I don't want to stay here anymore.
So you didn't even see the
I
the
tell
post credit.
tell everybody and tell me what's the post credit scenes because I have
It's
no
the
idea.
stupidest thing ever. So Anthony Mackie's character, Sam Wilson, aka Captain America, goes to the cell that the leader, I can't remember the name, but the one that,
Kim Blake Nelson, yeah.
yeah. And he's in his cell, and here we go. You ready for this? He makes a little joke to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson says that I don't think that's funny. And he says, you don't understand. Your world is not the only one. There are other worlds and other people like me that are coming. That's it.
Wow.
That was your post credit. There wasn't even two. It was just one. He was basically just saying, "There's a secret war coming. Be excited." And it's like, no. We already knew there are multiple universes. Literally, the movie called Deadpool and Wolverine showed us there's multi universes and did it properly. Now you're just gonna shoehorn that the leader is so smart and he's like, "Hey, did you know there's a multiverse here?" But I'm not even gonna say there's a multiverse. I'm just gonna say it in a very hinty way. And it was like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
We
I
already
feel like
know
you
there's
need
a
to go.
fucking multiverse.
I feel like you need to go watch it after we do this review, just so I can hear you, hear what you think, because I think you'll agree with me. It's the most shoehorned thing in there, and it feels like it was supposed to be there before the multiverse was even introduced in Quantumania. And the reason I say that is because when you watch this part, if they put this post credit scene before all this multiverse stuff happened, you'd be like, they're talking about the multiverse, and I'm talking even before Multiverse of Madness. That's how
That's what I'm
that
saying.
that.
So you had WandaVision, then you had
Mhm.
Multiverse of Madness, okay? Then you had Quantumania, then you had Loki, both seasons of Loki. Then you had Deadpool, and now you're telling me, "Oh, guess what? There's a multiverse." Like, yeah, no shit. We already knew that.
And but you gotta watch the post credit screen because what it does is he doesn't even say there's a multiverse. He just says our world isn't the only world that exists, and there's more like me out there. Be
So do you
ready.
think we're
And that
gonna
was
get
it.
a comic accurate version of the leader shows up?
Here's my thing. I don't think so. I think it was just their way of saying, "Ooh, multiverse is coming because of Secret Wars." I feel either one of two things. This scene actually existed before, and they just threw it in, or they shoehorned the scene in and thought maybe if they even hint at the multiverse again,
Yeah.
that people get excited. And it's like neither one works in the situation. The only time this would have worked in any way is if it was shot before and it was before the multiverse thing. I don't know if it was because based on the way this movie has been a shot, it feels like it was shoehorned in there.
Yeah, well, you could see it, right? Every time there's a reshoot, the CGI is suddenly way worse. Like
Hmm.
in the main sequences, when you could tell it was from the original shoot of the movie, the CGI looks pretty good. And then every single time it goes to a reshoot, you could tell because it looks like this people just standing on a green screen. And like I said before, some like artist came and drew the background. It doesn't even look like CGI or photorealistic. It looks like a painting. It
Yeah,
looks like not even a painting. It looks like a cartoon. Like someone has a cartoon in the background. And
and
it's
see, it's
very
funny. It's funny you
noticeable.
say it's funny we say all this because if you remember the Batgirl movie is supposed to come out, okay? And DC scrapped it to make more money, I think, based on just scrapping it than was to
Tax
actually
returns.
release it. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like this situation with this movie, I don't know if maybe they spent way too much money on this movie, but I honestly feel they could have scrapped this movie and just moved on. And the reason I say this for one reason. Yeah, you got loose threads that you're trying to fix, but like if you continue to try to shoehorn things to fix loose threads, well, I hate to tell you, buddy, you've got way more loose threads than you realize. You have King the Conqueror that literally had multiple versions of King the Conqueror and Quantumania.
Apparently there's this take this in. There's rumors that they're gonna that because Jonathan Major's case got thrown out for now, that they might bring him back.
But see, that feels like you're just trying to fix loose ends. It's like you've already broken the thing. Just go and start anew. Like kind of do what DC's doing. You don't have to start the whole thing new, but you already have set up something where it says, "Hey, there's multiverses out there. Let's do what they did." I hate
I
saying
think
this.
Fantastic Four is planned to be the reset.
Yeah, and I agree. And here's my other thing. I hate. I know people hate me going back to Deadpool Wolverine, but I'm going to bring this up because I feel like it's a valid point. Wolverine's world, the one where the Wolverine that we have in that movie, all his X-Men are gone. Okay, it's done, over with. We know that exists now. Why not do that with the 616? I know you don't want to destroy it. It's horrible to destroy it because it has a past to it, but you've already screwed it up. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist the role as a storyline, but like I feel like you're trying to keep it like we want to keep our baby because we don't have a reason to bring Chris Evans in. Well, you can. We literally just had Hugh Jackman playing a different version of Wolverine because they didn't want to sully the whole idea of Logan, which again doesn't even exist at
Don't
this point
please
in that
don't do
storyline.
that. Please don't bring him back. It's
But
it's
no,
I like it's I don't know, man. It like the Robert Downey Jr. thing. I don't care if it even works. I think it's one of the stupidest ideas we've ever had. And to me, that felt like a corporate move. Because he sells tickets and people want him back. Okay, but B, because he wanted money. I guarantee you he
Hmm.
showed up and was like, I got this idea. What if I come back as Kang's brother, Doctor Doom? And they're like, that's not even the right guy. What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Man, I want to be the Joker in Marvel. And they're like, Joker's in DC. Like, yeah, just pay me $25 million. Like, he made so much money from doing Marvel. I can't see him coming back because he was like, "Oh, I love doing this." He's coming back
Yeah.
because he wanted money. He was like, "I want to make a shitload of money. I have no projects right now." Like, I don't know
Hmm.
if you've checked Robert Downey Jr.'s what he's
Yeah.
done
He's
since
not.
Marvel. He made Doctor Doolittle and the my father's a jury or whatever. I don't know what
I
the hell the
don't.
movie was called.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. Marvel. Again, I think the only thing we're gonna get good this year, 2025, is gonna be the Fantastic Four movie because there's actually love into it.
Thunderbolts
Um,
has a chance, but like I
I
said, it has
hope.
to be a Guardians of the Galaxy style movie or a Suicide Squad style movie. It has to be very James Gunn. It cannot be. If I was them, I would stop being petty, okay? Because I don't know.
Mm.
I think I sent the thing to you. I don't know if you even pay attention to anything I send anymore. But I sent you a thing where at the end of this year, there's going to be a complete lineup crossover, one issue each for Marvel and DC.
Oh
So
no, I didn't see that. No,
it's in. I think it's in the Instagram chat.
that's probably why I missed. Okay.
But the just reach out. I know he's the director of he's doing everything in DC, but reach out to him. Say, yo, can you give us a every time you finish like a segment of the movie Thunderbolts, send it to James Gunn and be like, look over it and tell us if there's anything we could do. Like you're not really competition because you're both going to make money, right? People who
Yeah.
like Marvel are going to like Marvel. People who like DC are going to like DC, and there's people who are going to like both. You helping
Hmm.
them is not taking away from DC. You're just helping to support the ground level of what is comic book movies because right now they're failing in general. So when
Hmm.
helping Marvel doesn't hurt DC, it actually helps because you're making people want to go back and watch these movies. But if Marvel
Hmm.
keeps pushing out garbage, like for years, like people could say what they want if they want to say it's good or bad, but the Snyder era of DC was awful. And
Yeah,
then if
I
you want to
agree.
link it back even all the way back to Green Lantern, okay? There's some stuff in there that's good, but not all of it. And that's the same thing with Marvel right now. After Endgame, there's some stuff in there that's good, but most of it is not good. And
Hmm.
they don't seem to understand how to course correct.
Well, I've noticed it too. If you notice this outside of what maybe been Deadpool Wolverine, and see, well, no, not even using that. Here's the thing. If you look back at all the movies, even when they're trying to do the multiverse thing, so for example, we look at No Way Home and Deadpool Wolverine, they're both multiverse movies that go back to the
Oh,
old well, okay?
we didn't even say No Way Home. There's another one that's multiverse.
Yeah, and see, we look at those two, they're multiverse. But then you also look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. There's three elements that you see in all three of these movies. They are using the multiverse thing, but it's self-contained. You know, what I mean, outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's well, I mean, we'll use it
Yeah, it's
as a
pretty
multiverse.
contained.
Yeah, everything is self-contained. When you start saying, "Hey, let's fix loose ends," or let's bring storyline elements that are going to lead into Endgame, or not Endgame, but into Endgame. I keep thinking of the other movies,
Yeah,
into
Secret
the
Wars.
Doomsday and Secret Wars. What you're doing is you're causing a problem because let's look back at the old Marvel movies and think about this. When we watched the original first phase, every movie would only show maybe like a hint of something. It wasn't something that was truly part of the story. It was always a self-contained story. There's such a problem now where he's like, oh, we got to make sure that we have plot devices that link to another thing. But the problem is when you're putting way too many links together to either fix a problem or to show a new thing that's happening, you're now making things too convoluted. Where again, you have to do homework, and then the plot ends up suffering. If you look at those three movies, they still had crossover elements, but it wasn't shoehorned or forced in. It was something that was making the story better. You know what I mean? Make it more enjoyable. You know what you expect for these characters. With No Way Home, we ended up getting all three Spider-Mans, but we've already had past with those. And even if you haven't seen those before, they did them in a way that was very fun and delightful, that worked with the plot of reason why he was there. You know what I mean? This movie, every single plot that you're throwing in, they don't work together. The adamantium thing, with them trying to fight over it, doesn't work with the Red Hulk situation and the leader thing. None of these
Well, especially
coexist with
when
each
you come
other.
off Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, which was a movie about fighting over vibranium. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're doing adamantium. So now you're confusing people more because now what is what's better, what's stronger, why is this happening? You have not explained any of this to us. You're just constantly trying to tie up loose ends and push things forward without telling anything. And for me and you, it works. For
Yeah.
comic book readers and people completely brushed up, it works. Anyone missing anything, you're like, why is it? What is vibranium? What is
Oh,
adamantium?
that brings back something I think I forgot to bring up earlier. When Cap, aka Sam Wilson, is using the vibranium wings, I'm sitting there like, what the hell is going on here? Now you have to try to explain why this works because you got to think he brings up the super soldier serum, and we've seen the Incredible Hulk itself be so epically strong that vibranium is not going to really hold him off that much. But now suddenly it does. So they made Red Hulk a weak counterpart because like he was able to get cut, everything else. So like where does the limit of Red Hulk being strong come in? Because if he can be cut and everything and be injured, wouldn't some of those things he did, like going through the White House and being
I
destroyed,
mean,
wouldn't that have hurt him?
Wolverine can stab the Hulk, but the
Yeah,
problem is the Hulk won't die. The only way to kill the Hulk is to basically kill him when he's sleeping
yeah,
and in
yeah,
human form and cut off his head, I guess.
yeah.
But like
But
otherwise, because we've seen it, right? He shot himself to try and kill himself, and he just turned into the Hulk and spit the bullet out
yeah,
because and
exactly.
his healing factor is huge. But it's like it's not on the level of Deadpool or Wolverine where they can like actually I think you can if you cut off Wolverine's head, I believe he can die. But like
Yeah,
Deadpool will just regrow his limbs.
yeah,
Deadpool's healing
exactly.
factor is different, right? But those are like all three of those characters, Hulk, Deadpool, and Wolverine, is like a really good like if you were gonna make a what if comic book of just like this ragtag team that literally can't die, like there you go, you have it because like you could just like you could tell all kinds of wacky ass storylines where Deadpool's just ahead, it's Headpool, and he has
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go.
exactly.
By the way, there's a figure out, and I gotta buy it of Logan in his street clothes, and it comes with the Headpool head.
Really.
It's on Amazon, and I have never seen it anywhere, but I'm worried about ordering it because whenever I order shit on Amazon, it always comes damaged.
Yeah, good point.
But
But
yeah.
but going back to it, this movie is very inconsistent. There's so many plot holes in this situation. You can tell this movie was like a advertisement for what's already existed. It's not even advertisement for what's to come. It's literally saying, "Hey, we're trying to fix loose ends. Let's throw it together." But now I'm like, "Oh, thanks, but you introduced adamantium to us, and how are we going to implement that now if you're going to reset the universe?" Like, you've made things even more confusing now, and at the same time, the loose ends that you tried to fix, they're not satisfying. So it's like, what is the point of this movie when you could have just added the scenes that were political with Thunder Ross in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Red Hulk and leader stuff. You could have made a Hulk movie later on that could have been adapted with that. The whole Celestial slash Adamantium thing that could have been another plot line that could have been like a Secret Invasion or something like that. Like, there's so many things you could have done with this with other storylines, but it felt like you were like, we need another Captain America movie. Captain America is great, and we want to make sure everyone knows that Sam Wilson is the new Captain America. And it's like,
Yeah,
now
I
I
don't
don't
know.
care. I don't care for him. No, that's all I feel. Anyway.
Well, let's wrap this up. Guys, thank you for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And Bryson, Wanda sucks.